for Mr. Eddie Connor.
I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer at the age of 15. I can remember laying in the hospital bed, laying on that hospital bed in Beaumont, and looking up at the ceiling and almost pinching myself, saying, this can't possibly be real. As I panned down and looked by my hospital bed, I see my mother on my left side as the doctor says to her 4 words, we can't promise anything. That woman, my mother, her 5'3" frame, had the gigantic faith as the tears streamed down her face to stretch her hand to me and say, baby, it's gonna be all right. The doctor looks at me and says, Eddie, you have NHL. And me at the age of 15, being a young black precocious boy, says, National Hockey League? I didn't know I was getting ready to be the youngest owner of a National Hockey League team. He says, Eddie, you have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I'm like, Doc, what are you talking about? My first language is Ebonics. I'm still trying to learn English. He says, you have stage 4 cancer. Doesn't even give me the opportunity to even embrace or grasp the notion. And says, don't ask why. Now, as I look back on it, I'm thinking now, what a nerve he had to say, as if I know he's my physician, but he's sure enough not my psychologist. For the next 18 months, close to 2 years, that's all I began to ask. Why me? Why now? Maybe you're not like me, but I could think about 50 different people who could have had what I could have had and been in the shoes that I was in. But I was in my own skin, feeling the weight of the world. The question is, how do you respond to life's interruptions? Being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer at the age of 15, all I asked was, why me, why now? I can remember walking into the entrance doors of Beaumont, the Cancer Rose Center, and I'd see all these nurses gathering around me, pulling me left, pulling me right, to sit me down in a chair, to take a needle out. And I hated needles because I had small veins. And they'd get this needle and they'd insert it into the under part of my skin and my arm, and they insert it into my hand if they couldn't find a vein, and they would pump this poison, this thing that they would call chemotherapy and radiation, into my 15-year-old tender teenage frame. And the doctor was saying, we're going to have to inject this into your skin because when we opened you up, we did a CT scan of the chest and we saw that your cells were growing so fast that we could see them growing with the naked eye, around your heart, around the trachea, around your esophagus, around your voice box, the place where I'm speaking to you out of tonight. And they would insert this needle into my arm and they would inject me with chemotherapy and radiation, which would just make me so weak. I would even be so nauseous on site, be so nauseous at home. And, you know, I'd go to bed at night and I remember the doctor was saying, you're going to deal with these things. You're going to deal with so many physical strains, but the psychological pain of cancer was even far greater. I would go to bed at night, and I don't know about you, but I'd wear my do-rag because, you know, like they say, you can take the brother out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the brother. And so I'd wear this do-rag at night, and I'd wake up in the morning on my white sheets and my white pillowcase, and I'd see the black follicles of my hair spread out across this white sheet. It got so bad that I'd make a mad dash and I'd feel my hair and I'd feel my hair disintegrating and right into my hand, and I'd have clumps of hair follicles in my hands, and I'd run and dash to the bathroom, and I'd look in this gray mirror, and I'd see my reflection where I see myself disintegrating before my very eyes, and I just began to scream, and I'd cry. Yes, ladies, men do cry. Not only in the dark, but in the light, and the light cascaded on my emaciated frame. And I began to cry, and my mother rushed in, where my own biological father never visited me one day in the hospital, to grow up in a single-parent divorce household. All I had was my mama, and at my weakest, my lowest, my darkest moment, she came and embraced me. And she told me those same words that she told me in the hospital. She said, baby, it's gonna be all right. And I said, Mom, how is it gonna be all right? Do you see how I look? Nobody would dare look at me. Nobody would dare put their eyes on me. Everybody, whenever they saw me, they would just put their head down and just look past me instead of looking at me. She said, but baby, I know how it's looking right now, but it's gonna be all right. She came into my room one day after coming from work, raising myself and my younger brother. She came in and she said, baby, I just want you to sit up. She said, I want you to believe. I want you to hope. I want you to dream. And she came into my room, and I remember the sunlight was just cascading through the blinds as they were just cracked slightly open. And she said, baby, I got something for you. And I began to sit up against the wall, pressing my emaciated body and my weak body tender from all of the chemotherapy and radiation that was pumped into me. And I began to just strain and push myself up against my pillow. And I saw in her hand she had 2 white pieces of paper. And I said from my strained voice, Mama, what's that? And she said, baby, I told you it was going to be all right. Now I'm about to show you we're going to Jamaica. 2 airline tickets were in her hand, and she said, we're going to get out of here. I said, well, but the doctor, she said, no, everything is all right. The doctors have given you clearance to go on this trip. And we flew from Detroit Metro Airport to Kingston, Jamaica. Yeah, man. As we stepped out off the plane, Kingston Manley Airport, all you began to hear was steel drums being played. All you began to hear was, yeah, man, Irie, pass the mango, become a thing, man. I don't know what I just said. And I began to just take in this beautiful sunlit island, placed in pain but nestled in paradise. Some people's feet were their shoes. Some people were picking mango and all types of fruit, delicatessen, off the tree. And she said, baby, let's go to my mama said, baby, let's go to the nearest beach. And I began to take my weak frame and place my black feet into this white sand, and I peered over into the ocean, and I began to see so many exotic fish. I just began to see life through a different lens in spite of how I was feeling. Seeing just the beauty of God's creation cascading down on me as if it was sending me a message that, yes, you can live through dying places. My mother took me to church, and the Jamaican pastor got word of what I was dealing with, and on that Sunday morning, they were high in the spirit. They were clapping, they were shouting, they were leaping, they were dancing. And he calls me up. He says, Eddie Connor, I want you to come here. I'm like, brother, you put me on blast right now. He says, I want you to come here, and we're going to pray for you that you will be healed from this disease, this dreaded, despicable disease of cancer. And as I was walking up to the stage, the podium, the platform, everybody from around that church began to walk right behind me as I walked to that stage. And as they pressed their hands on my back, everybody began to pray for me. And the pastor began to call down almost fire from heaven, and I began to feel like I was healed, like I was rejuvenated, like I felt my human spirit coming alive again. As I left that island of Jamaica, I began to return back to the doctors to see the report. And they were doing tests and they were running scans and they were checking my vital counts and my blood counts, and they were seeing that there was no trace of cancer in my body. And I remember when the doctor gave that report, he says, "Eddie, we have a good report for you." He says, "We can't find any form of cancer cells in your body." And I mean, I wanted to shout. I wanted to scream. I just said, I'm finally free from this psychological, painful prison that I was in. And my mama said, she leaned over to me and she embraced me. The doctor even put his hand toward me. And she embraced me and she whispered in my ear, she said, "Baby, didn't I tell you it was going to be all right?" She said, "In spite of your situation, me, you, and God is a majority. Cancer is only a minority." My mama, my dear, beautiful mama, Dr. Janice Connor, with her 5'3" frame, 130 pounds, soaking wet on a good day, had the gigantic faith to say, "Baby, you got to change your perception and change your perspective and see the first 3 letters in cancer is can. You can overcome. You can survive. You can live through dying places." I'm a living witness today that your test is a testimony. Your misery is ministry. Your mess is a message. Your stumbling block is a stepping stone. You have to believe that you can do all things, that you can overcome, that you can have the faith to say, in spite of it, it's going to be all right.
Eddie Connor, unwrap the gift